Welcome back after our little leg stretch break. Back onto deliberations, and we have next up, I think, is it the Five Towns Trails Trust Network Trust?
We haven't discussed the Marae yet.
Yeah, but we didn't, we're going through the submissions first, and then we're going to jump onto the.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought we were just going through the list.
So page 41 of our submissions. This is seeking financial support for operational costs of the Five Towns Trails Trust. It is not for infrastructure work, and the amount requested is 20,000 per annum until 2027. So requesting a 3-year funding agreement. Open to the floor. Councillor Aileen.
I just wanted to confirm I have to sit here silently through this portion.
Thank you.
Okay. Try not to make eye contact with anyone.
You can face the corner, I'm joking.
I could.
Yeah.
I think Councillor Aileen's submission was around the Carterton District Trails project. This is a submission that came in outside of Councillor Aileen's submission, so I would see no reason why she couldn't participate in this.
Awesome.
Welcome to face all after all.
Back to the table. Thank you. Right, open for discussion, starting off with Councillor Cretney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that we don't support the Five Towns Trail. I'd like to see us concentrate on our own knitting within our Carterton district that we've already agreed to put funding towards.
I'd second that.
There is a motion put. Can we have some discussion, questions, information, all of the above? Councillor Gallen, did you?
Yeah, well, fix our own roads first, I think, at the moment. Just way the land is at the moment. I think we should be looking after our own paths first. Make sure everything's right at home first.
Yeah,
Sorry, Steve.
the long-term plan, the draft document talks about Carterton only, I guess, doesn't it? Which I would imagine specifically, as it's been put to the public, excludes any activity on cycle trails outside the district.
So yeah, so this is a funding request.
Wairarapa.
Or it's going up to Wairarapa and Greater Wellington as well for funding. So this is an extra funding request coming through.
Yeah, I think I said it before. I think councils, well, the hearings committee has just decided to allocate 800,000 to cycleways. I think I'll repeat the comments that were made earlier. In this time and age, when we are going to government for all sorts of assistance, I don't think that's going to do us any favours at all. I've said that before. This would only be a double down. And I think if I add to that the fact that South Wairarapa itself, the main benefactors out of this arguably are withdrawing, Masterton's withdrawing, what's the point? I support the option. I support the funding. I think,
Councillor Dell.
Yeah, whilst I support the initiative behind it and the long-term vision of creating more spaces for people to visit our Wairarapa. As Ron has said, and I don't think it is definite yet, that the other two councils have withdrawn their funding, as can reconfirm that they have or not?
Neither of the other two councils have held their deliberations yet.
Yes. And it's for, yeah, so it's not confirmed that they have withdrawn at this stage. Yeah, whilst I consider our contribution to this in my list of nice to haves, but with a reservation that it is nice to have, but not this year. So with that in mind, whilst I support the concept and the network, I will have to vote against this due to constraints.
No, vote for it.
Vote for the motion, sorry, we do not support.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be the lone voice, but honestly, I've seen firsthand what trails do for regions. And when I think about how much Carterton has invested, not this council per se, but previously, historically, what we've invested to get this far, I still believe in the vision, which is the connectivity from Remutaka north, for the sake of, because the money being requested is to keep the organisation active so that they can secure the 30 odd million dollars of outside funding. If we don't support the administration part of it to do that, then the funding will never be secured. I don't know their success potential on that because money's hard to find, but 20 grand, given what we've invested to date, and even the results that we've got to date for the region, if I've got to find 20 grand, I'd put it here. Personal view.
Thank you, Dale. Councillor Newman. You.
Yeah, sorry, I've got too many kids on too many devices, so my internet's not very good at the moment. But I echo what Dale said. I just see there's such a big spend. We've just agreed to give Destination Wairarapa 55,000. Hang on, pops, or whatever it was. And I see this as a massive, draw to the tourism card for Carterton, especially if we decided as a town to really get on board with it. And I also think the larger Five Towns Trail really ties in with the funding we've agreed to put to our own trail. So I don't support the motion, maybe? Is it the right way to put it?
You'd be against the motion.
She said she doesn't support.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the one. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Lou. Steve, you were going to say something?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Jeff, you mentioned this earlier on, and can you just confirm for me, because as I've said, the last long-term plan, that 295 is under Five Towns Trails.
In the previous long-term plan.
Yes, that the funding is put aside for Five Towns Trails.
Yes, I believe that's correct. And we're spending that money in Carterton. On Carterton's trails that link to Five Towns. Yep. So
you're saying could 20 grand of that go to
that's
yep.
What I'm alluding to.
Yeah.
Rather than it's extra funding. I mean, I've already made a motion, but
you could amend it.
And we've already approved that funding, but to me, that's a way of using an existing budget, which is already set aside, as I said, in Five Towns Trails, and provide them the 20,000 that way.
And that is a carry forward budget. So that's a budget that wasn't spent in the previous LTP. So
could I move an amendment then?
Can I?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I can make my comments.
No, sorry. Go. I'll retract.
I actually am in support. I think the big picture for the Wairarapa, I think we do. I mean, yep, it is really tough times, and if we could find the funding, which Steve's suggestion I think is great. I think it's really important to get behind this trust and give them our support as a council. I actually have, that they know it's a long-term project. They have very committed people on the trust. They're also looking for each of the councils to appoint somebody onto the trust so councils will have a strong voice. I support the big picture and the vision for it, and I think Councillor Crackney, your question around the 295 that has been rolled over, I think that would be a great way of supporting this without additional. So do you wanted to move? Someone was going to move an amendment to the motion.
Move the last motion, you and
I seconded it.
Yeah. Steve and Grace. Well, can I move an amendment that the 20,000 sought by Five Towns Trail comes from the Carterton Cycle Trails 815? Point of order on that. I think that fundamentally there's an issue. If you have a motion to not do something and then you try and amend it to,
Something.
yeah, that doesn't work. If the motion,
rescind my
you can rescind your motion or you can amend. Yeah.
You can withdraw your motion. Absolutely. Okay.
You want to move what the amendment was going to be?
I would actually prefer someone else to, because I believe I voted against the initial spend on the Downs Trails. So
Okay.
I just wanted to make that
There's
suggestion.
another point of order on that. If the proposition is that by moving a motion here now, it impacts on a motion already passed, there's another problem.
That I'm not allowed to be part of that
You
conversation.
can't do that.
Can we go back?
Because if you do, I'd like to
Yeah,
remove
so,
that motion completely.
We're just checking.
I follow.
Yeah, I believe the mayor is correct. Understanding orders that we can't pass a motion now that impacts on a previous motion. So I haven't read this last night.
Nothing else to do, right?
And we could take an action and have staff go away to see whether or not we were able to fit the Five Towns Trail project request within
the 815.
Before you take that action point, I would like some clarity as to, are we approving 20 grand or 60 grand? Or
Yes.
20 grand a year over 10 years, which is 200.
It's a very good point. 3 years. It would be 3 years.
Over 3 years.
Well,
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a
so
3
60 grand. Well, sorry. I have a different view on that.
And just another question, I'm not quite sure why the differential that we use between spends between Marsden and Carterton and South Warwick doesn't seem to be applied here. We're paying the same as them, and I don't understand why that wouldn't be the pro rata or whatever we do.
So it's their proposal to us.
Yeah.
Often when the conversations are had, correct me if I'm wrong, from our side, when it is in discussions with the other three councils, that's when their pro rata percentage is.
Okay, yeah.
So this would be just the trust's proposal to us.
But we have previously, I think, agreed to pick up a third, haven't we?
This council?
Yes. On the basis that we were in the middle and unless we were a little bit proactive, nothing's going to happen.
If the proponents of the first motion we dealt with earlier on had factored in a compromise to reduce that level of funding in favour of this, we find that we, in our consultation document, focused on Carterton, we were not, we had basically agreed in consult and discussions that we would withdraw back to Carterton. This such a motion would be contrary to what we put out for consultation on. And so, I have a double. 800K on cycleways to me is plenty of money. Thank you, Stephen.
Intentions, mate. Absolutely.
Let's see what you've done.
What's the way forward?
Yeah. What?
Yes.
Yes.
Someone has to move.
As Lawrence mentioned before, so as part of the last annual plan, we did have a paper out which council did support at a quarter share, and then but it was subject to the other two councils, and the other two councils didn't take it out. So that's just clarifying for Steve where that quarter came from then.
Yeah. Thank you. So way forward.
then are we back to say that if we support this, we've got to find 20 grand?
Or
60,
20
20 grand.
grand.
3 years.
20
Over
grand,
3 years.
60
Yeah.
grand over 3 years, so 12 grand a year.
Well, to make some progress, I would move that we support the application or the submission to the tune of 20,000 per annum times 3.
Mhm.
And I'll just put that there and we'll see where it goes.
I'm happy to second that. Open for discussion.
See you dance on the pin.
Councillor Newman and I sit on the Wairarapa Trails Action Group on behalf of this council. It's going to be a bit embarrassing for me personally.
Are you conflicted?
No, I don't think so.
It's not a conflict.
But on the basis of what we put out in the long-term plan document, I don't think I can support that.
The point of order. I'm confused how that's not a conflict, but me talking about it in a submission is a conflict.
Because
Talking about trails, he
because
is involved and I'm not involved in any trails.
because sitting on an advisory group are conversations that go around the group.
Yeah.
Putting in a submission which becomes a public document where it's clearly stated that, and any one of us would have put it in, if it had been put in writing and that we're very specific about, we do not support X, Y, and Z, or we wholeheartedly support ABC, especially in a submission and public consultation documents, that's where the challenges arise. We sit around a lot of workshops and a lot of committees as councillors. We have all of these discussions, and we have discussions as part of committees, whereas we're not actually putting it in black and white in a submission, and that's where that arose from.
Also, we're only there because we're appointed by the council.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That's
Which is the very point that I raised right at the start of the triennium, the wisdom, the discussion we have to have, the wisdom of councillors being appointed, whether it's Destination Wairarapa or any other governance or advisory group. It's just.
and so.
We have put Steve in a very awkward position now.
So on that, just remember that advisory groups have actually no decision-making capacities whatsoever. So I think that completely covers off any potential conflicts. There are no decision-making capacities. Yes, personally, you might find it awkward, as we do a range of other things that we find awkward, that we may have to make decisions on. That is the nature of the beast in small communities. So moving back to what we have, motions on the board to support. We have a mover and a seconder. Do we have any further discussion around this before I put that to the vote?
Madam Chair, can I just start? I'm not sure if Robin's got it down here. I'm just wondering if a note was taken of who voted against the 815.
Robin, did you?
I think it was me.
And Grace and.
No, Grace.
No, Grace. I
No,
think there were three.
three of you, me and. Yeah. I think what.
That was item.
Grace and who?
No.
No. So
No.
Robin, can you please go back to this?
I don't think it was recorded.
I didn't.
Because I didn't record
I
any.
think the motion was withdrawn anyway, but
No,
No.
Robin.
Project.
Okay, can we just everyone stop for a minute through the chair?
Yeah.
That's me. Robin,
else.
the third item that we voted on this morning. So we had the first two, which are the consultation items and transportation wastewater. Then the next one was the local cycle trails that were in the LTP, where it was up to 815,000, which was the 600,000 are better off plus the rollover from last year. That was put to a vote, and we did have, I think it was 6-3, and the people that voted against did request to be recorded.
5-3, I think.
5-3 even.
5-3.
Yeah.
Have a look. Motion. I kind of got 4 in favour and 4 against. hold it, maybe there were two votes.
That was
A motion.
That was the first one.
Motion
That was the
failed.
first one.
that failed, and then the next.
And the next one was, oh, that's right, a 5-3, and it was against was Gallon, Steve Cretney and Ron.
Okay, thank you. There we go.
you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Robin. Right, that answered that question. Is there any other discussion before we put this to the vote? Lou, are you able to, if we can't see you, do a thumbs up if you're voting or whatever? So
Got it on. Hopefully you can see me now.
yeah, Dale has moved that we support the financial request from the Five Towns Trails Network Trust for the 20,000 a year for 3 years. I seconded it. So all those in favour, please raise their hands. For the motion, those against? Any abstentions? And we have one abstention with Mr. Gallen, which means that it is a split vote. As I said yesterday, I will not use a casting vote, no matter how passionate I am about anything. I also said I would never abstain. So that means that status quo remains, which is no funding for the Five Towns Trails Network.
Good on you.
Yeah. Whilst there is no submission, it does fall under the Hurunui-Orangi, MOUs and Hurunui-Orangi. Do we have a discussion around that, bearing in mind that we know there is an MOU that hasn't been signed? What are the implications for us for this LTP?
Being the one who,
Over to,
thank you, being the, oh, you want to go?
yeah, I was just asking, I was
I
asking,
wrote it up there, so.
yeah, I was just
I
asking.
just wanted to
the-
clarify that there is planned in the existing budget $10,000 per annum, which is what we have been paying them at I. So it's currently in the plan at $10,000 per annum.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So, no, thank you. I just wanted clarification from the CE. So now open up.
Yeah, so the reason I put that up there is that if I go back in time, when that grant was originally given, and John Booth and I were two of the people who proposed that, although I had to step away, it was conflict.
John, speed it up, time.
Okay, so since then, what was understood then? It was to cover off for things that we were starting to do that was new. We brought Hurunui-Orangi in to help with the inductions. We brought them in to help with the swearing in of council, the inaugural council meeting. We brought them in to be advisors to the council. We brought them in to assist us with citizenship ceremonies and with other occasions of importance to the council. And recognising that service, we did a spitball figure of 10,000 and allocated it. That was for all of that stuff. Things have changed. We now have Hurunui on the payroll being salaried to do many of those functions. And then we have people come in and then we have staff. So we have kept, but we did have Pono providing advisory services, as I understand it. Which means that some of those services Hurunui-Orangi used to provide are no, they're no longer necessarily called upon to do that. There's a lack of clarity to me. Then on top of that, I find at Anzac Day that we had given the money for the breakfast. Well, that's new. I would have thought that would have come out of the 10,000. Just the other day, I get hit up because the RSA's given them all of the deceased soldiers' crosses, 4/5 of which are not Māori. And Hurunui-Orangi now has nowhere to store them. They come and ask me if I would help them get funding or do something to council to pay for the storage of these things. I said, that's what you get your 10 grand for. Go get a little garden shed, put it up and erect it. The lady, Josie, who raised that with me, said, I don't know about that. So you need to go talk to your committee. I think as all of that, from where we started to where we are today, clearly a whole bunch of changes have occurred. And MOU still hasn't been finalised for various reasons. I just think 10,000 is a lot of money. If we're paying for some services now that we were getting as part of that deal then how should the adjustments be made? So I'm putting that on the table because I just think we need to have it. There needs to be a conversation. And if there is an MOU in line with our previous discussions about MOUs, then we need to get something locked down. We need to be very clear in that contract what we're paying for, what we're giving grants and recognition for, which is help in kind, and what we're not. So I'm just so vague as to where things are going now that I just think it's time to pull it in and be very clear about what we're spending money on, ratepayers' money. Recognising that Hurunui is a strategic partnership along with, and that raised the other question, why do we treat Hurunui differently to that which we treat Kākura Whitia? And do we have an obligation, if we're doing some support over there, to give similar support or another level of support over here? I just think the whole thing needs a pause and a conversation. That's my point. I don't know where that fits.
Is that what you're moving?
I didn't get a movement out of that. Give us a sentence that you're actually.
In line with our conversation around action points on looking at MOUs, I think there's two aspects in here. One, that MOU needs to be in line with everything. But I think action point is the council does need some guidance. No, council needs just clarity around what we're actually doing with that money and what we pay for and what we don't, what's included in the 10,000, what's not. So we can just confidently go forward and say, that's what we're giving the money for.
So are you suggesting that the $10,000 MOU remains as a budget line as it's already existing, but that the contract or the MOU is tightened up so there is more clarity about what is included in that?
Yeah, and thank you. That's very helpful, Madam Chair. I would suggest that it would be unfair to make an immediate change right now. And so that we should continue, but we need as an action point to review.
Right, so you're not moving anything different. It remains the same, but there is an action point for staff and management.
And maybe staff can bring to council some sort of paper that outlines everything we're doing in the Māori space and how we can pay.
Cool. And again, when going back to our MOU policy, all of that stuff will be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. Okay, next up. Other items, part 2. So we did have a submission around the Main Street from Grant Sidaway, page 67.
The number of references and submissions around the state of the Main Street, no secret or no surprise to anybody. We talk about it, whether it's a conversation even today or somewhere else, given the time of the day. But last night, when we talked about what the themes were that came out of the submission parcel, Main Street was a conversation starter, but not a main driver. And really the thought was, is there any appetite from council to think about some of its existing partnerships, what the way forward might look like, whether there was any potential to, you know, have new or extended conversations with the groups that submitted directly on Main Street? I'm really looking at you, Steve Lawrence, because you're Mr. Main Street.
Conflict.
I can go back a few years to when
Not too many.
Mr. Enwick turned up and we had the placemaking group and quite a lot of enthusiasm and some money spent. It's personally a bit disappointing to me how that placemaking group, which was actually doing some things, has morphed into the People and Places Advisory Group, which, despite the best efforts of its chair, doesn't do anything.
Got some action happening now. Thanks, Vicky.
Yeah, but and Grant's work he's done in pulling people together, and the extraordinary amount of reaction he got on this Facebook post, which was not very different from what we got on the long-term plan, indicates to me that there is an appetite in the community to get some things done. A lot of that is, a lot of what people are saying is not, don't really understand that they're talking about private property, that talking about passing bylaws, making people do stuff is not totally straightforward.
Yeah.
But I do think that through some reimagining of the people and places group, and possibly in order to make it actually focus some budget, might be helpful. And it does seem that the high street is one of the things that people in Carterton are most concerned about.
So should this group be invited on to people and places and actually give it an injection, or I don't know.
I think in their submission, that again, not specifically asking for money. Although they say they want the council to invest in assisting with upgrade required and bylaws and guidelines, which I'm sure Solitaire could speak to ad nauseum and say, no, can't do that, which we can't because it is private property. I think, again, like other community-led initiatives, it's important that council listen to them and help them move things forward. Obviously, it's not like we can go and introduce them to all the building owners because that's all privately held information. If they would like to come and participate in the people and places, and if personally, I mean, having been involved in climbing up ladders and painting the Snack Attack building before, sorry, Peanut went down the wrong way before Ross bought it. You know, very much involved in all of that, but we just got on and did shit. And I know it's harder these days to do that, but if there's some really passionate people in the community, they may be able to have a chat like one of the building owners and then start doing stuff. And I think possibly a way to channel Grant would be, and his team is through contributing to the people and places, and maybe they can take over some of the community initiatives. I personally don't feel having, you know, we've already cancelled the laneways, which was in the previous LTP. So I don't think it's appropriate that any funding from this LTP goes into, as much as I would love to, beautificating the high street. I think it would be really good of us all as elected members to have the personal support behind these people and actually, you know, if they are having a working bee, let's, you know, we'll get out there with our paintbrushes and give them a hand as well. I think that might be a better position for us to be in as elected members, also being out there seen to do stuff. And I know it's a real tough one. It's, you know.
Well, there's a couple of bigger picture issues as well. I'm not sure this is the right venue for this discussion, but we've started, so I might as well carry on.
Just keep it short.
One is beautifying and a coat of paint isn't going to fix the problems in the high street. It needs major redevelopment. And this council doesn't have any anything or anybody, or when I say body, I'm not talking about a person or any institution which is able to liaise with developers in any way or influence in any way what happens with the high street. And I think we should probably try and find a way to have a bit more.
Maybe that's part of that MOU discussion with some of these other groups who have all got an interest. You know, we talked about Dark Skies, we got BW, DW, GC, a whole lot of organisations with an interest in, don't know.
I'm not sure either. And the other angle, of course, is the we were up to with the earthquake-prone buildings. So, and that's definitely outside this discussion.
So if we can, I really do want to keep this to LTP related, but thank you for all of that, Grace.
Sorry, just a point of order. I don't want to be seen to be flogging a dead horse, but I was removed from this room yesterday. I was not able to listen to any oral submissions. I wasn't able to participate this morning because of a perception of a conflict of interest. Steve, this isn't personal, but he owns buildings in the main street and he's sitting at this table advocating to beautify our main street. That is a conflict of interest and it's a pecuniary one.
So,
And standard being applied here.
in response, yesterday, when you were excluded from the table, you were invited to stay and remain and listen to the hearings. You were invited again after you gave your submission, and you chose not to stay in the room and listen. You had the opportunity to stay in the room and listen. At the moment, this isn't really, we're asking him as advice from having been involved in the high street. We're not discussing putting anything into the long-term plan. We're actually getting information from him.
I just think there's two standards. There is a reason that I have been invited back to this table today. So I think pointing to what happened yesterday is a very weak argument.
You're entitled to your decision and your opinions.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Sol, can I have your input, please? The Greytown Heritage Trust has a considerable input into what can be done on their main street with the South Wairarapa District Council Building Department.
Yes, because the Greytown Main Street falls within a heritage precinct.
Mm-hmm.
Our one's a character area and is controlled more by the district plan.
Yep.
Having that heritage precinct does come with significant problems and puts additional compliance whenever anything has to be done. And it's still isn't the big stick to make somebody fix something up if they don't want to.
Yep.
You look at, I'll refer to a heritage building in Deliberations that for years and years and years, and it's a category 2, has been just left to rot. And there is no mechanism for South Wairarapa District Council or anybody else to get that one building owner to fix it. He owns property in Greytown, but because it's in that area and because they're being rented and there's that income coming off it, they're maintained in a slightly better state. And there is that lobby group. They are very proactive, but it is very strict with what you can do in the main street of Greytown.
Thank you. That was all I was really trying to get across is Greytown's got that, and I'm not sure what we could do at all in Carterton.
Just in reference to the really good submission came through today, and the mention of the bylaw. I do just want to flag Upper Hutt in 2013 put an unoccupied commercial bylaw in place. That is still in place now, and I don't know how much they have enforced it or whether it has been tested through the courts, because there's definitely questions about whether it was legal or valid or within council's powers to put a bylaw up to that effect. South Wairarapa in 2014 tried to put a bylaw in place of similar nature to address similar problems, and for them, they didn't adopt a bylaw because the legal risk, if it was challenged through court, had they enforced it, outweighed any potential benefits.
Okay.
So from that bylaw perspective, I think we could look at what's happened within our region to make that call of what is council's risk appetite if we were to go down a bylaw path and we were to enforce it and we were to be taken to court and we were to find it wasn't legal.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I was going to jump in ahead of all that. Adrian Staples of Mayor and Featherston, they tried to push a bylaw through, and that just got the building owners back up, and he's basically the opposite way. But yeah, like people have said, oh, why don't Carterton District Council just pass a bylaw? There's the reason why.
Yeah, and people don't understand the full mechanisms. So
I just think all of those things are valid, and we've done the bylaw thing before. So, and it's a big, best to be avoided if you can. That's my humble view. But I think no surprise that the Facebook chatter and no surprise at the quality of the submission. Totally get it. I am frustrated up to my back teeth. Even when I wanted to ring each of the property owners and have a conversation with them, I couldn't even get phone numbers off the staff because apparently I was in breach of some privacy conversions. So that makes it more frustrating. I think at the end of the day, a community group rising out of the ground itself will have the ability to put peer pressure on the owners if they are loud enough and strong enough. And I'll be quite happy to stand beside them and add to that on the street if they want to protest. But it is what it is. And we can come back to the chair's suggestion, yeah, if we as individuals, as representatives, want to lend our voice to that. It's peer pressure. I don't get why someone can't simply spray the lichen on their veranda. I don't get why they don't want to preserve the front of their own building and protect it from rotten, rust and God knows what. I don't get that.
So moving on, there's obviously nothing that we can do. We can grants as part of our LTP deliberations. I think we have Grant's email address. I think we can invite him to the People and Places working group action point.
Yeah.
And as chair of that, I'm more than happy to have a sit down and a chat with him, and also being one of the commissioners on the district plan, explain to him about bylaws and so forth also, so that can be an action, but
If
it's
there's any common ground.
yeah, absolutely. And, you know, building relationships is the best way to move forward with community. Completely. Right. Okay. Other items that we have requested to be put up to discuss. I'm really conscious, like these are big things. I think if we can get our points across succinctly, would be really, really good, because we then need to, when we finish this meeting, we will be reconvening the ordinary council meeting. And I'm conscious that Grace has a little baby at home, and that Lou is at home with 50,000 children that she's homeschooling, and Johannes is struggling to stay awake with COVID. So moving on to the first item of other items, part 2, community services and projects. So open, what are we wanting to achieve as an outcome? And who put that up, and open discussions. So who requested that be up? Steve, you? Yeah. Do you want to take the lead on?
Sure.
The discussion?
To be honest, I don't feel that this kind of stuff can be rushed through, and I'm sorry that you're suggesting we should hurry what's remaining on that board through in a period of time.
I wasn't meaning to be hurry. I'm just mindful that there are councillors around the table with little people at home.
Well,
I was respecting the table if I have to.
there's quite a number of items just through the community support through these capital projects, which I think need discussion themselves.
Okay, do you want to lead off on them?
That's fine. Grace, you probably can't participate in the event centre ones, but I can understand the library books. We've done that for considerable time. That continues to grow year on year on year.
What are you referring to? Like, have we got that?
So we talked about what's included in here. You wanted to know what we were going to add on.
It's just more what page and documents, just so others can follow. Sorry.
Oh, it's capital projects of the long-term plan.
Okay, cool.
Attachments.
We haven't got that paperwork in front of us. So, okay.
It was one of the attachments that was part of the consultation document.
Consultation
Yeah,
document.
but
okay.
it's not
part of
these
the
waivers as part of the consultation.
Addition to the
Okay.
agenda.
Can I photocopy that?
There's a lot we might discuss on it.
We could put it on the screen. We'll be able to see it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Looked this morning.
The publications.
Publications, was it?
Do we do something else on the list while we get it copied, perhaps? Just a point of order, Madam Chair. Jeff, some guidance from standing orders. I'm getting a sense that this is the meat of where people really want to have a conversation. And I know that's going to take time. I firmly understand the chair's comments about sign and what's on. But I'd hate us to get to a point where we have to deliberate and people don't feel they had the opportunity to go through the line and column in the way they wanted to, and therefore end up voting against the LTP.
Also just.
I would like to know I'd like guidance as to
Yeah.
whether it's possible to adjourn the proceedings and reconvene tomorrow at a time that suits people, so that people can have the time that they want to go. We still haven't cut the knife in to the depth that some I know want to do. There's a percentage that's been on the emails that have got people worried. If people feel that they weren't given that opportunity to go through line and column in the way they are wanting to because of time constraints, and we rush for completing the extraordinary meeting and we pass it, I think we're in jeopardy. I need to know if there's space in here on standing orders for an adjournment and a
It's a
reconvening.
decision of the chair of the meeting as to whether or not to adjourn and
Convene tomorrow.
We have quite a light Wednesday next week.
Yeah,
Can wait that long.
Jeff's that's not available tomorrow.
Here is
We're audit and risk next Wednesday.
Karen.
Good after that.
Karen is the number.
I would, as chair, I would really like our CE to be present. Monday.
Monday.
So just point of clarity, Mr. Chair, do we need to go, are we going to put every line by line to pieces and discuss each line by line? Is that what your wish is, Steve?
I think there needs to be considerable conversations around quite a number of these items. I have requested previously a business case for one of the items, which still hasn't been tabled. So to me, that item is wiped from what's being requested. But I think there's a number of items here, we don't have a business case around them. So I think there should be discussion around these items and what's potentially going to be included and what's not. It's all becomes relevant in the final number that we go out with. So I think they deserve to have the conversation around them.
And just speaking to that point of order, we're going to expect management to go away after and come back with the final doc, because we're giving them clearance to go and make those adjustments. The point is that if they don't know what the adjustments are, that in front of mind for some people, it may only be one or two items out there, maybe the whole lot. I don't know. I haven't gone through that again for a while, but it's getting to a solution where you can actually pass an LTP that is what worries me.
How on earth have we got the time to go through those pages line by line with supporting business?
Let's just go and see where we end up.
But we can't just approve it without knowing line by line what's in there, right? That's our job.
I think this was asked at previous workshops. And it wasn't forthcoming.
Some councillors.
Business cases have been submitted and were submitted in November, and for all of the projects that Councillor Credney is referring to in terms of event centre, depot upgrade, you requested further information, which we certainly on the depot project we can bring back to the table, but I don't agree information wasn't provided.
Hasn't the depot project, excuse me, been cancelled?
No, it was reduced from about 1.5 million to 300,000, and we have a suggestion to reduce it down to 150,000, possibly in year 2, but it was reduced.
Yeah,
the answers may clearly the answers are there. Then we need to get the questions up and answers down so we can move forward.
Yeah, my thoughts are it's nearly 4 o'clock. We've tutued around the edges and actually we've made the problem worse so far because we've been looking at adding extra things into the budget. We haven't been looking at doing any slicing at this point. So we've taken a day to go through everyone's requests, but we haven't gone through what's in there to see where we can make cuts. So I think there's going to be a lot more than 1 hour, 2 hours left. And I think it might be sensible to reconvene on another day. I agree. I think the CEO should probably be present. So maybe it means next week. But yeah, we're not going to, I'm not going to be rushed. I know others around the table won't be rushed to go through the next steps. So I want to be thorough. This is the long-term plan.
those discussions were at the front end of this process,
Yeah.
not the 11 and a half hour. There's not the time to meet the statutory timelines to go through and relitigate.
Won't take long to cross things out, Dale.
Sorry?
It won't take long to cross things out. We may not all be on the same page with this. I don't feel we have looked at the list and gone, actually, no. We have a 17.5% rates increase that we're looking at right now. That is embarrassing. I made the point yesterday. We need to go through and cut things. We cannot continue to run council like this. We need to go through these spreadsheets. We can't just say, yeah, you've done the spreadsheets, we trust you guys. This isn't about trusting them. It's about being governors and looking at the detail. We need to look at the detail. We need to dig into these spreadsheets. It's 4 o'clock.
We've had
Goes all night.
a year and a half of workshops in order to go through.
Okay, so there's not this.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So
Jesus.
this is not help.
About Jesus.
Excuse me, point of order from everybody around the table. The lack of respect is not acceptable. So we will speak respectfully, please. I know emotions are high. Everybody is very, very tired. And I think, it's been a long few days. We have.
I won't know about
Watch the video.
You could be the mediator.
We have, as Dale said, we have had this. This is not just stuff that has been presented to us in the last 5 minutes. I think going forward, I would like to propose that this meeting is adjourned. I would propose that we reconvene on Tuesday when our CE is available to be here present. It is very important that he is here. Can I please ask Councillor Cretney and Councillor Ayling, there's obviously things that you really want. Can I please ask that you have those requests from staff, if that's okay, Karen and Jeff, exactly to forward to all of us what you want. So we've got the information in front of us, that we've got the weekend to go through it. So we're all reading off the same spreadsheet.
I'm not here on Tuesday. I'm not available.
Can we do the Wednesday? That's our day for council.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Madam Chair, can I also ask the question? Dale stated that we've gone through this and gone through this. Is this not part of the consultation documents?
of which there were no submissions on, Steve.
We did.
And so we all approved as a council, everybody around this table and online, we approved the consultation document to go out and the 2 items to be consulted on, which is what we have done. We have had immense praise for our consultation process and the consultation document. That is what we have done. We have followed that process. We are running very, very short on time. The auditors will be in at the end of this month, in a week's time. So we are very limited on time. Now, we do need to reconvene this. I don't think we're going to actually achieve anything else this afternoon, personally.
That's right.
Steve, can I ask specifically, what are the spreadsheets, or for both of you, what are the spreadsheets that you would like your fellows?
It's the shopping list.
So the shopping list, okay. So,
And for me, it's
So just to ask a question, this is what went out in the midweek.
yes.
Is that correct? Did the attachments go with the midweek?
No.
So how did everyone in the community have access to the attachments to be able to make comment on the submissions, and their submissions on this attachment?
So
the consultation document also gave a link to the
I was going to say that.
entire budget.
Yep.
Now, everyone is entitled on opening that link to be able to discuss the detail. Very few people are going to read 300-400 pages, but some do. Our job is to read it.
Yeah.
And our job is to address those matters. Now, we consulted on two main issues and we put the big picture, the major picture stuff up in the infographics. But we do resubmit his attention to the link, which is the full document, which is what we're consulting on. So it's not unreasonable to have that question. And I do think that now being mindful of a 17.5, I know around the table, it's not just in one or two locations, that there's a serious concern about our overheads, our expenses, and right the way through. So it's not unreasonable, I don't think. And I think the chair has made a perfectly sensible and understandable recommendation.
So can I please ascertain people's availability for next week? So
Wednesday.
Wednesday's out for a lot of people with
We've got
meetings.
risk and assurance and investment on Wednesday, which is pretty much all day.
Why don't
It's in workshops.
an investment?
Are we?
No, I said that why the council may consider a cancellation of the investment committee
And we had a work.
as prudent.
Yeah.
To get this through. Risk and assurance, I'd say no, because you've got Philip.
Yeah.
Consider your investment committee, you can make that choice to cancel it because you've got more urgent business.
Yeah, we could go from noon Wednesday. Yeah.
There's a couple of
Cancel that.
the workshops we can move over.
Yep.
After that, yeah.
Wednesday would be best.
is
Wonderful.
everybody comfortable?
Not me. I'll apologise now.
I don't think we're going to get everyone in the room, are we?
I can,
Hmm?
I can be there. I will be there.
Suits me perfect.
So if we reconvene this until midday on Wednesday, the 22nd of May.
And so to the chair, you're requesting that anyone who's interested in circulating things that we want fellow councillors to read does that in the meantime?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely, because if you've got staff, then I think it will make for a much better meeting
I agree.
to have information that is front and centre for any of the councillors to share with your fellow councillors. We are a team. We are doing this together. We are adopting an LTP for our district together. So any information, I strongly suggest that it is shared with the rest of the team. It's very important.
Thank you.
Does that need a motion? Because I'd second you.
I don't think it needs anything, but thank you, Ron. So this will be reconvened to Wednesday, the 22nd of May at 12 o'clock. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Very much.
Thank you.